On Twin Chats, we talk all things health, weight loss, mom life, and everything in between. And today we are talking about snacking and weight loss. Elizabeth, do you want to give a little background on why we're talking about this?
So the reason we're talking about this, the reason we came up with this topic is because this is probably my most asked question to Elena, who, if you have not watched before, she is a licensed health coach. Is that the thing? Just health coach? I don't know what it's called.
Certified health
Certified
coach.
health coach.
Certified health coach, yeah.
So that's like my most common question that I ask her because, I mean, me, like probably most of us, I like to snack. So I'm like, well, can I still lose weight if I'm having these snacks? So that's kind of where we got this topic.
Yeah. So basically, a lot of the topics that we are going to cover on Twin Chats are conversations we've had that were like, we think it would be helpful for someone, helpful or entertaining or beneficial in some way for someone else to hear this. So we're like, this would be a good one. So yeah, we were having this conversation at Elizabeth's house in her kitchen, I don't know, a couple months ago. And we were just kind of talking through like what her goals are and kind of where she's getting stuck. And I was asking her, okay, well, what are you eating throughout the day? And just like tell me more about that. So what it came down to is she was saying, okay, well, I'm having meals, but then in between the meals, she was having like little snacks here and there. And so her question was, yeah, but can I not snack and lose weight? And I have like a strong opinion on this, but my opinion really doesn't matter because at the end of the day, most people, and what I said back to her is most people could go either way. You could be someone that has meals and has 3 meals or 2 meals or whatever it is for you, and you lose weight that way. Or you could be someone that literally eats all day long and snacks all day long, and you could still lose weight. It's going to be dependent on you and your bioindividuality is what it's called. And really, it's a matter of trial and error. But what I always say back when people say this, and what I said to Elizabeth is, why do you want to? Like, why do you feel the need to eat, and then eat, and then eat, and then eat? Like, that is what I always ask people. Like, what is your goals? What do you actually want to be doing? And are you doing what you want to be doing? So I think more importantly than can I lose weight, it's like, because I know most of the client people I work with, it's typically they're eating when they don't want to eat. Like they don't want to be snacking at night and they're snacking at night. So that's what I kind of had said back to Elizabeth. Yeah, maybe you can, but is it something you actually want to be doing? And are you doing what you want to be doing? So I don't know if that answered the exact question, but I guess in summary, most of the time, yes, you could lose weight either way, but it's kind of like, do you want to be doing that all day? Is really what it comes down to.
And I think for myself, and I may first speak for a lot of us, a lot of the time snacking is out of boredom, just because like I work from home primarily. So sometimes I walk downstairs after I've had my breakfast or I've had my lunch, and it's like, like 2, 3 o'clock. It's not lunchtime. It's not dinner time.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, I'm just going to have some chips. So like, yes, it is usually out of boredom. It's not usually typically not because I'm like starving. I mean, there are
Or
those
you were
times.
saying, or you were saying like sometimes she like Jaden, her son, sometimes she's like getting him something or getting his lunch ready, and she like makes a little pile for herself. And sometimes it's like a conscious thing we do, and other times it's not even a conscious thing we do. So it's like, yes, a lot of times out of boredom, or it's always an emotional eat, typically,
Yeah,
if we're
and sometimes
snacking.
like for kids, for anyone who's watching with kids, sometimes it's literally not even a thought. Like he has like he like loves like sour cream and onion chips, and like I'll give him some, and then like I don't even really like them, and like just be standing there putting them in
Hmm.
my mouth. So sometimes it's not even like a conscious thing, like oh I want a snack. Like it's just like he's eating chips, I can have some chips. So
Yeah.
yeah, like I guess that's like my struggle. And that's like I think what you had said to me is kind of like you said, like it's kind of based on your plan, but I think for and also what you had said to me is like if I like factor that into my plan, like into like my eating schedule based on like what I'm trying to remove from my diet, what I'm trying to add, which I'm not trying to add anything, but um I think you had said like if I kind of factor in like I think my body type, I think I have to like reduce like my carbs and chips and bread. So like if I'm like substituting it maybe or something like that, maybe I know that's not how maybe you think, but that's how I think that I can
She
work it
always says
in.
this when we have this conversation is I have to reduce my carbs. And I'm like, oh my gosh, stop saying that because carbohydrates are fruits and vegetables too. It's not always just
Well, I
like
mean, when I
we have
say
to eat less carbs.
carb, maybe complex carb is a better word. I don't know. Is that even
Sour cream and onion chips? Yeah, probably. We probably need
whatever?
to
So
reduce
I'm
the
just
amount of
saying, like
sour
the
cream and
bread and
onion
the
chips.
chips, I have to kind of like think ahead, like, okay, well, what am I having for dinner? I have to plan
Hmm.
more, is basically what I'm saying. Plan it into my
Yeah.
meals.
Yeah. That's exactly it. Like I always recommend for anyone, have a plan, make a plan and follow it no matter what it is. And if you want to build in 2 snacks throughout the day, try that out and see if it works for you. But make sure you like what you're doing, make sure you like your reason, and then make sure you're following through with it. That is like the biggest thing overall when it comes to snacking, not snacking. I know for me that I've tested both out, and I feel a million times better when I'm not like grazing throughout the day. And forever ago I was listening to, I can't remember, Kelly LeVeque. She's like a nutritionist to celebrities, and she had said we're not toddlers, we don't need to snack all day. And I'm like, that is so good. Like obviously, like if you think about how people ate a million years ago, like what is it, prehistoric times, like um people, you don't didn't just eat all day long, like, and now that's all we do, is it's like we literally just eat all
I
day
mean,
long.
yeah,
So
but
I know I feel a million times better when I don't. The other thing is there's studies and there's schools of thought like for both that back up both, where it's like, okay, you don't burn fat if you do eat all day, you don't burn fat if you don't, what did I say, don't eat all day. So again, I just feel like everybody has to kind of test it out for themselves. I know that I feel a million times better when I have meals and that's it, and I know a lot of the people I work with are the same way. So
yeah, I guess
yeah,
like you said, it's like really just comes down to like what is your goal and like what works fitting it into to meet your
yeah,
goal. But I guess
absolutely.
like what most of us probably also struggle with is like cravings for snacks as well as like, well, mostly because this conversation is about snacks. Like what if you want something? Like I know obviously even you like sometimes want to have some chips.
For sure. I actually had a couple macadamia nuts before we got on this call because I
Mm.
was hungry and I decided that I actually did want to have it. So when it comes to cravings, like I guess there's kind of two things. Like, are you just craving like something to eat? Do you just like, okay, it's 8 o'clock and I'm like, okay, I'm bored. I'm kind of like craving a snack, like anything to eat. And it comes down to, again, like, what do you actually want to be doing? And I always like encourage like stopping and pausing and thinking it through. Like, do I really want to eat here? Or is my brain just like eat something on board? And like identifying which one it is, because then you can make like more of a conscious decision. But I also encourage even better than that, planning that ahead of time. And if you didn't plan it, don't eat it.
Yeah, I guess I think like the majority of snacking is again, it comes down to boredom. So I guess like can you like distract yourself? Like be like, okay, well I'm gonna go like watch TV or like or no, is that not what you suggest?
Sure, you could. I know what I don't suggest is substituting, like, if you're bored and you normally out of boredom eat chocolate, I don't encourage eating blueberries instead, because that's still you're still creating that same habit that you have that you don't want
Yeah,
to eat when you're
that's what
bored.
I was also gonna ask. So is there a thing is like because I know obviously everywhere, advertises like healthy snacks. Is there a healthy snack?
Of course, of course. So to back up and just like go back to your other point, like when you're craving things, like first, like I said, like you have to decide if you actually want to be eating anything. And then second is, okay, say you're craving chocolate, like do I actually want to give in to that craving right now? Because every time we do, we're building a habit. Every time our brain thinks I want chocolate and you eat it, you're training it to do that over and over again. So what I always encourage is if you're going to plan that ahead of time and it's not on your plan, don't eat it. So like that's kind of to answer your first question. When it comes to managing cravings, knowing that we can just allow them to be there, that it's literally just an idea that our brain gives us, and we can consider it to do it and consider not doing it. I know for myself, most of the time that I choose not to give in to my cravings because I don't want to perpetuate that habit. And that is what I encourage the most of the time, is not doing that. Now, if you're on a vacation or you're like doing something out of the ordinary and you're, that's totally different. But I mean, in your everyday life, most of us don't want to just give in to cravings left and right, especially if we have weight loss goals. I
Yeah.
remember I used to work at this office, and there was like a pizzeria on the corner, and they had really good pizza, and it always smelled so good when I left the office every single day. And I literally like craved that pizza every day when I went through that corner, went by that place. And I was like, and I used to think about it like, if I literally gave into this every single day when my brain told me I wanted it, like I would probably be 20 pounds heavier and I would feel awful. My skin would be like, what would the difference be? And
Yeah.
it's like I still had that craving and that temptation every single day, but it was more of the choice of like, that's cool. Yeah, I want it, but I'm not going to have it right now. Maybe on Friday, like in a couple weeks, like whatever, like that it's still a choice.
Yeah, I feel like just like even like just driving down this like when you're like going somewhere that's like we have like a main road here that like you drive down and sometimes I'm like, oh, there's like Dairy Queen. I could be like craving ice cream. I could be craving pizza. So I guess if like I gave
Yeah.
into every single one of those places.
Exactly. Exactly. And honestly, I don't know why I related to this. It's so weird, but like this is so strange. I think of it as like compared to road rage. Like, and I know this sounds outrageous. If you're driving and somebody does something crazy and you like have like the urge or like the temptation to like go nuts, like drive into their car, like flip them off, whatever it is, because I've seen people have crazy, crazy road rage before. Sometimes we have the thought to do that. Like, have you ever had the thought, like, not to do it, like maybe maybe it's a horrible example. But I've thought about it before when I've seen someone have crazy road rage. Like the only difference between that person and me is I don't act on it. I may have the idea to act like a crazy person when someone cuts me off, but I would never do it. That person had the thought and they just did it. It's the same thing with like
I guess.
cravings and temptations and like
Yeah.
urges to eat. It's just an extreme
Controlling
example.
them.
I think it's yes, it's literally just like allowing it to be there and be like, that's that's a cool idea, but I'm not doing it
Yeah.
because I don't want to.
So what is
So yeah.
your position on like late night snacking? Like I know for myself, like if I'm gonna like, and it's probably the same thing, but like I'm having wine, like I'm probably gonna watch it like a Netflix show after I'm done with this. And
Hmm.
like I always will like be like, oh well maybe I could just have like some like chips or cheeses or something. Like what is your position on that? Same thing.
Yeah, yeah, it's the same thing, and it's like I can give my opinion and what works for me and how I feel best, and it's not doing it. But you have to decide what works for you. If you're like, okay, 2 or 3 nights a week, I want to have like a bowl of popcorn or a bowl of chips or whatever it is, then do that and work it into your plan. But what I would push for is once you have that bowl of chips, don't then go have a two, three, and four. And if that's a struggle for you, unless you don't care. But most of the time it's like, okay, we want to lose weight or we want to feel good the next morning or whatever it is, so we want to have only one. Most of the time we don't want to have any. We just don't want to deal with the uncomfortable feeling when we don't have
Or
it.
yeah, and it's also probably just like a psychological thing because like when you grow up,
It's a
it's like
habit.
you like
Yeah.
kind of like that's like a fun thing. Like, oh, have a movie and have like snacks and it's like I think it never like really goes away. So
Is it fun though? Is that fun? or, do, or does it feel like or does it feel awkward when you don't have it because you're used to having it? That's
I
what
mean,
it
I wouldn't even
typically
say
is.
used to because like I don't do it, but like sometimes like right now,
Right.
especially when I'm having wine, I'm like, oh, I could have like some cheese. So
Yeah, and you absolutely could. But question if you truly want to, if you want that more than not having it, and how you're going to feel if you actually don't have
that's
it.
true.
Yeah, and if you decide to have one bowl, keep it to one bowl. And if it doesn't turn into that, you got to evaluate why. You got to backtrack it after that and think like, all right, what happened here? What worked? What didn't work? And how can I, do something different
Yeah.
next time?
So
So I
basically,
wouldn't say that.
your kind of thing is like not so much snacking, more like have like substantial meals. Like it's more, meals to make fill
Yes,
you up, not just like having snacks. That's not really a part of your.
absolutely. No, that's what I encourage more often than not. If someone like when we were talking, you were like adamant about having your snacks and like your certain things throughout the day. And I'm like, okay, cool. So then let's build that into your plan, but then let's follow it. So let's build it into your plan. Let's give you two snacks. Let's have your breakfast sandwich and your this and that, the things that you had to have, and let's test it out.
Yeah.
But again, you can't test something out that you're not following.
So do
So if you want to
you
have it, let's work it in and test it out. I don't do
do you
that,
feel
but
like it
everyone's
is
different.
makes better sense to like, especially like I guess this could be with having kids, with not having kids, like to just not have snacks in your house?
No, and that's something else that I go against what a lot of people say too. It kind of depends where you're at. If you're someone who, especially if you have like disordered eating patterns or anything, that's a very different situation. But if not, I actually think it's more beneficial to have the foods around and manage yourself around them than to eliminate them completely from your life. Maybe not everything at once, but some things. Because what happens when you don't is then you go into an environment where things are around. Maybe it's your office kitchen, or you go out to a restaurant and you don't know how to handle yourself because you haven't developed that skill.
Yeah.
So it's way, way, way better to develop the skill of having the Oreos staring at you every single day and when you love Oreos, but you're not eating them, and then develop that skill, like I keep saying, versus not doing it all. And
Yeah.
I'll give you an example with that. My husband, he eats a chocolate chip cookie almost every night. And I love chocolate chip cookies. Like I literally do. And they're homemade and they sit in my freezer. And I watch him do it every single night. I could say, like, can you please not have cookies? Or like I could throw them out because I don't want to eat them. Or over the years, I have developed the skill and the new habit of not having one every at all,
That's hard.
or
That's very
except for
hard.
when I choose to. And it is challenging, but when you do it and you give that new habit just as much time as you had the old one, then that is your new normal, and that is amazing when you can do that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I actually encourage the opposite. Unless, like I said, you are just starting with this, maybe you only have like one thing or two things around the house that are tempting for you versus 20,
Yeah.
because that while you start to work into that.
I was just curious. I mean, we do have chips because I have a kid in the house, so it's like, I mean, you
Hmm.
can't, he likes chips. Like,
Yeah, we have all the things too. Absolutely. Like chips, cookies, we have cake in my freezer. Literally, if you open my freezer, it is full of all sorts of things I don't want to be eating on a regular basis. Another great example that I love thinking about is like sometimes we'll get takeout on like a Friday night. We'll get like Mexican with like chips and salsa and guacamole, and those chips will sit there for a few days. And sometimes, and I love them, like from certain places. And I will look at them every single day and think about putting my hand into the bag and taking the chips out. It doesn't matter what time of the day it is. I definitely get that idea all the time to do it, and they're so good. And I'm like, I have the idea, and I'm like, no, I don't want to do that right
yeah.
now. It's 9 a.m. It's 9 a.m. I don't want to be eating salted fried tortilla chips. Like, and sometimes it's like laughable. Like you can like laugh at yourself about it because you're like, that's such a crazy idea. I'm not going to do that. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So did you ask another, or did we say something else that I didn't?
I don't think
Healthy
so.
snacks? Is that what you had said?
I think we kind of talked about, or I don't know if we did, but yeah, like, um, I had said like, do you think there is something that's like considered like a healthy snack? Because I know like everywhere I feel like advertises like, oh, it's a healthy snack. So like, if you are
Hmm.
having something like, say in the case, I guess you are hungry or you decide to have a snack, like, what would it be? What would be like your preferred snack?
Yeah. Um, you just went off for a second. Okay, there you are. So, of course, there's always healthier options. And first of all, if you see anything in a box or a package that says healthy, turn over the label and read what's on it, because that is a marketing tactic all over the place. It probably isn't. So read the label, read the ingredients if something is being advertised as healthy. Because guess what? An apple or a banana or broccoli doesn't say healthy on the label. We just know that it is.
I
Does
feel
it?
like there was something on
No.
bananas at one point that said
No.
like healthy or
Oh my
something, but I could
gosh.
be wrong.
Not typically. Not typically. So flip it over and look at the label if it's being advertised as that. So what do I think? Of course, there are some that are better for you than others. What I always push for if I'm going to have a snack, a meal, anything, is having a mix of the macronutrient group. So your healthy fats, your protein, and your fiber, and that's going to help you with your blood sugar balance. It's not going to you're not going to have energy spikes and dips, and it's going to help keep you closer to like fat burning mode versus fat storage mode. So you want to
And fill you
try
up,
to and fill you
kind
up.
of.
You want to try to avoid just having like straight sugar or straight carbohydrates or like just straight really anything. You want to try to have a mix of those things. So for me, my go-to, you're going to say it's so boring, is like berries and like almonds, or like something that's balancing those two things. Again, carbohydrates, healthy fats, a little bit of protein. Like a chia pudding, like a small smoothie, like there's a lot of
Chia
options, but
pudding.
that's what
Oh,
I feel like
that sounds terrible.
I encourage going for, like that template versus like specific foods. But then the other part of it is many whole food things that you can have that don't have a package, a label, a million ingredients. Looking for things that are like under 5 ingredients, unless they're all whole food things combined. So that's really what I would push for more than anything versus like a specific thing.
Yeah, and I think one thing that obviously like you first like brought to my attention, like everyone's attention probably like 5 years ago, is like looking at the ingredients that are actually in things and not just like I'm not saying like just look at it and see like the fat content or whatever, but like even like in like a bag of like Doritos or whatever, like there's certain chips
Hmm.
that are like considered like way cleaner than like other chips. Like it's literally just like
Yeah.
potato and like avocado oil and seasoning compared to like you look at a bag of Doritos, I realize this very recently because I don't eat them, my son does. There's like 20 ingredients. So like even just like I would say
Yeah.
comparing those things, if you're gonna have chips, just like I know you don't, you certain oils are healthier than other oils, but even just like oil and potato is better than like 25 other
Of
things.
course. Yeah. And yes, so always look at the ingredient label. Even if you're like in a mood or like a place where you don't really care that much, still look at it because
It's
once you start
crazy.
to, it's like hard to go
It's
back.
crazy.
I know every time I have someone that I'm starting to work with, and that's like one of the first things I encourage them to do. They're like always bringing back all these things that they didn't know that were in their foods: food
Nuts.
colorings, dairy that's in different forms, additives, preservatives, all sorts of things that like they just literally couldn't believe sugar is in so many things. So yeah, that's such a good point, like to look at labels. And then if you're the ingredients, not only the calories, like you had said, and then yeah, so it all goes back to like what are your goals? If it's 8 o'clock and you just want like something crunchy and salty, and you're like, I want chips, then go have the chips. Like, or and that's what you're okay doing. Just go and do that. Like, because then if you're trying to like, oh, well, I want chips, but I'm going to have carrots instead, then you're going to be sitting there thinking, I don't want these carrots and I'm just eating. Like, that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, I
So it's
guess that's
kind of
true.
like you have to look at what am I actually trying to accomplish here? Like, so I think, it all comes down to that.
Yeah. And I think we kind of talked about like mindless snacking because that's kind of all falling into like having a
Hmm.
plan and like being aware of like why what you're putting in your mouth and why.
Yeah. Yeah. I always say, like, question every single thing that passes your lips. I have like a phrase. What is it? Oh, if it passes your lips, question it. And I give another example of like think of your front door at your house. You don't just let random people walk in. So why would you let like random food and drinks pass your lips without thinking about like what am I doing? Why am I having it? And does it align with my goals?
Yeah.
Regardless of where you are or what you're doing. Just make a conscious effort of paying attention to what you're eating, what you're drinking, and making sure you like it. You like your reason and that you like that you're doing it. Is like the
Yeah.
biggest thing.
One something I heard on like a podcast or something recently is like someone said like if it comes in a package, even if it like it says it's clean or healthy, it's really probably not clean or healthy. Which
Oh,
then you think about it, I'm like, I guess that's true. Other than like, I don't know.
especially if the label says clean and healthy.
But yeah, it's
Because
true. But really, like if you're trying to eat real food, it's not coming in a package. I guess. Is
no,
any fruit
I
coming in
mean
packages? Well, I guess it depends what kind of package we're talking about.
that's most of the time true, yes. But there are some snacks that are made of different whole food ingredients. Like I can think of like I think the brand's like Flackers, and it's like chia seed crackers. They're actually really good. It's all whole food ingredients they make up a cracker. Or even like Siete Foods makes some chips that are like a cleaner. They're gluten free. Like they're made with whole food ingredients. I think it's avocado oils. They're made with more of like cassava flours and things versus like the genetically modified potato and corn. So they're better for you. They're cleaner ingredients. But that's what I had said. Like you have to think about what your purpose and goals are for eating it because they're still not fueling you in any way.
Yeah.
They're still literally just chips.
Yeah.
Like they're not doing any good for you. It's truly just an emotional like enjoyment eat,
Yeah.
which is fine if that's what you want out of it.
That's true. That's true.
So there are definitely cleaner options, but yeah, whole food doesn't need a label, doesn't need a package because
Yeah. I think
it's just
snacking
what it is.
also is can be emotional. Obviously, boredom is like part of it, emotional, I think. But
Always
yeah.
any any eating that we're doing that is not because we're hungry or our body needs fuel is emotional. Literally, anytime we're eating that is not because okay, I'm hungry, I'm sitting down to eat something that is actually fueling my body is emotional.
True.
Which doesn't mean that's a bad thing, but that's what it is.
True.
So,
Very true.
so yeah. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that we talked about that's helpful here. What do you
I don't
think?
think so. I think we pretty much went over everything we wanted to talk about.
Yeah. I think like if you're, just like final takeaway is like decide what you want to do and like what your goals are and you have to figure out what works for you is really overall. I know like after a lot of trial and error, like I found what works for me and I feel a million times better when I'm not just snacking and grazing all day versus
Yeah.
what I
Yeah,
am.
that's
So,
definitely true. And I do better when I actually pay attention to it. I'm mindful
mhm.
of like, what I'm putting in my mouth, which recently, but like it's off and on. So we'll see. We'll
Yeah.
see how it goes.
It's off and on. But remember, it's all a choice. It's all about intentionality and
Yes.
deciding what you want to do and then following through with it and then just building that habit. So,
Yes.
all right. Well, thank you for listening. If you listened to this whole thing and if you have any topics or questions,